All right, buckle up, everybody, because we are diving headfirst into some seriously interesting stuff.
Oh, I am so ready for
The
this.
president's back in the office, fresh start, new year, and, well, he's not exactly easing back into things.
Yeah, no kidding.
We're talking about his first press conference back,
Hmm.
and let me tell you, this transcript is buzzing with energy.
It's practically electric.
We're talking about Stargate,
Stargate.
a $500 billion.
Whoa.
That's billion with a B.
Yeah.
Investment in AI infrastructure right here in the USA.
I mean, just the scale of this is mind-blowing.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just the money.
Right.
It's the ambition. It's the players involved.
Yeah, talk about an all-star team.
You've got Larry Ellison from Oracle,
Of course.
Masayoshi Son of SoftBank, Sam Altman, the AI guru himself from OpenAI.
And don't forget, NVIDIA and Microsoft are waiting in the wings.
They are ready to jump in. This isn't just a tech project. This is like a full-on AI alliance.
Yeah, it really feels like a meeting of the minds, doesn't it? And the fact that all these heavy hitters are on board,
Yeah.
it really says something about the potential they see in AI.
So what are we talking about here? What does this actually look like on the ground?
Well, think massive data centers.
Okay.
Campuses popping up all over the country,
Wow.
and over 100,000 American jobs,
Jobs.
practically overnight.
That's a lot of change, a lot of potential impact.
It's huge, and it makes you wonder, is this just about technological advancement?
Hmm.
Or is this about the U.S., staking its claim?
As a global leader in AI.
Exactly. It's interesting, right? The president kind of framed this as a competition, almost.
Oh, yeah, that definitely came through.
Almost like a race against China to harness the power of AI.
Okay, let's get into some specifics. Ellison, he was really passionate about how Stargate could revolutionize healthcare.
Oh, yeah.
He talked about transforming electronic health records.
So doctors could have instant access to a patient's entire history no matter where they are.
Right. Imagine better diagnoses, better treatment.
And it goes even deeper. He talked about AI for early cancer detection through blood tests.
Right, right. And he even mentioned something about personalized mRNA cancer vaccines.
Created by robots.
In 48 hours.
48 hours. It sounds like science fiction.
It really does.
But they seem to believe this is within reach.
Wow.
Think about it. Curing diseases, making healthcare more affordable.
More accessible.
Yeah. It's almost hard to grasp.
It is. It is. And speaking of big, bold visions, Son, he painted a pretty optimistic picture of the future. He called this the beginning of a golden age.
A golden age driven by technology.
By technology.
Right.
A lot of people believe AI could solve the world's biggest problems.
Yeah.
But of course, there are those who are a bit more cautious,
Right. Worried about the downsides, the ethical questions.
Exactly.
And that is a good point. We can't just blindly chase progress without thinking about the potential consequences.
Definitely not. Okay, before we get too deep into that, let's bring it back to Stargate.
Okay.
How does this tie into the president's other priorities?
Right.
I mean, he talked about bringing back American manufacturing, remember, that made in the USA thing he kept repeating.
Right. Stargate with all these jobs.
It's a key part of that vision.
It is. It
And-
really seems like he's trying to tap into the national pride.
Yeah. But this press conference wasn't just about Stargate, was it?
Oh, no.
He touched on everything. Pardons, wildfire relief, TikTok,
Tariffs.
Ukraine, you name it.
A whirlwind tour of current events.
Yeah, exactly. So before we move on to those other topics,
Okay.
let's take a minute to just absorb what we've learned so far about Stargate.
Okay.
Because this is big.
Yeah.
This isn't just another tech project.
Yeah.
This has the potential to reshape not just the U.S. economy,
Right.
but the entire world.
Absolutely. It really does. Stargate is ambitious, no doubt. But let's shift gears for a moment and dive into some of those other topics the president brought up. One that really jumps out is his stance on pardons.
Yeah, he pardoned a bunch of people. Some of them connected to the January 6th events.
Right, right.
It's interesting. He defended this decision, arguing that the sentences were way too harsh, and even drew a comparison to what he sees as, leniency toward violent criminals today. It's like he's trying to position himself as a champion of fairness, but his critics argue that, pardoning people involved in the January 6th attack, it sends a dangerous message.
It definitely adds another layer to the debate on criminal justice reform.
For sure.
What constitutes a fair system,
Absolutely.
Now, shifting focus again, the president also brought up wildfire relief, particularly in California.
Yeah, and he had some strong opinions about water management there. He claimed California has plenty of water,
But they're mismanaging it?
but they're mismanaging it because of politics, he says.
Interesting.
He even talked about this giant valve
Yeah.
diverts water away from Los Angeles, sends it straight into the Pacific Ocean. It's clear that he sees this as a critical issue. He did not hold back in his criticism of California's policies.
He even used the phrase death wish.
Yeah, strong words. He also expressed concern for California farmers, claiming they're being unfairly restricted.
While the state's literally flushing water into the ocean.
Into the ocean.
This ties back into his whole message about American self-sufficiency.
Right.
Supporting industries like agriculture. He seems really frustrated with regulations that he sees as hindering economic growth.
Hmm. And speaking of regulations and economic interests, things got really interesting when the conversation turned to TikTok. Remember that whole saga?
Yeah.
Well, the president suggested that Elon Musk should buy TikTok
Okay.
and then give half the company to the United States
Whoa.
in exchange for, get this,
A permit.
a permit.
It sounds crazy, right?
It does.
He even suggested negotiating the deal right there in front of the media.
Like we're watching a reality show or something. I know, right? But underneath all the spectacle, it shows his concerns about, TikTok's Chinese ownership,
Right.
the potential national security risks.
Right. He's been talking about his distrust of TikTok for a while now.
Yeah.
And this proposal, as unconventional as it is, it reflects his desire to have some control over the platform.
And control seems to be a key theme here.
Hmm.
Remember when we were talking about tariffs earlier?
Yeah.
Well, he mentioned imposing tariffs on Canada and Mexico
Really?
for allegedly allowing millions and millions of people to come into our country that shouldn't be here.
Wow.
He even connected this to the fentanyl crisis, blaming both countries for the flow of drugs into the U.S.
It's a classic example of his protectionist approach to trade.
Right.
He sees tariffs as a tool to pressure countries that, he believes are taking advantage of the United States.
And speaking of pressure tactics, he also revealed that he's considering a 10% tariff on Chinese goods and a 25% tariff on Mexican goods, specifically because of their role in the fentanyl trade.
That's aggressive.
That's aggressive,
It suggests he's willing to escalate trade tensions.
even if it risks hurting the U.S. economy.
That's a high-stakes strategy.
Definitely high stakes. All right, before we jump into the final part of this deep dive, let's pause for a second and think about what we've uncovered so far. We've gone from a massive AI initiative to pardons, wildfires, TikTok, and tariffs. It's been quite a ride, hasn't it?
It really has. It seems like every topic we touch on just leads to another layer of complexity, and we haven't even gotten to the international stage yet. The president had plenty to say about the situation in Ukraine, the ongoing conflict there.
Yeah, he seems to be taking a different approach than we've seen in the past, emphasizing the need for negotiation and a ceasefire. He even mentions speaking with both Zelensky and Putin.
To try to broker peace.
Yeah.
That's a pretty notable shift in tone.
It is.
While he, criticizes past approaches to the conflict, he also acknowledges the human cost of the war.
Right.
Expresses a desire to find a peaceful resolution.
He even went as far as to say that the war should have never started and place blame on previous administrations for letting it happen.
Yeah.
He even claimed that he had a strong understanding with Putin
Really?
and that Russia wouldn't have invaded Ukraine under his watch.
Interesting. So he's framing this as a matter of strength and diplomacy.
Yeah. He also had some pretty strong words for the European Union, criticizing them for not contributing enough financially to the war effort.
I see.
He actually suggested raising NATO's spending requirement from 2% to 5%,
Whoa.
arguing that the burden should be shared more evenly.
Right.
And while we're on the topic of the EU, he also took aim at their trade practices, claiming they are unfair to the U.S.
That definitely tracks with his protectionist stance.
Yeah.
And his belief in, using tariffs as leverage. He really seems to view global relations through an economic lens.
Focusing on trade deals and financial contributions.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
It's fascinating to see how all these different things, AI, tariffs, international relations, they all seem to connect to this bigger picture of his worldview.
Absolutely. And speaking of global affairs, the president also touched on the Middle East, taking credit for securing the release of hostages and expressing frustration with Iran's role in the region.
Yeah, he blamed Iran for funding groups like Hamas and Hezbollah, contributing to instability.
Right.
And let's not forget, his call for a global crackdown on fentanyl trafficking,
Yeah.
blaming China for producing and exporting the drug.
It seems like every issue, domestic or international, it's all framed through this lens of strength, negotiation, and, focusing on what he perceives as American interests.
Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground today. We've unpacked a whirlwind of topics, from a massive AI initiative to pardons, wildfire relief, TikTok, tariffs, even international relations.
It's been quite a journey.
It really has. And it reveals a lot about the president's priorities,
Right.
his approach to governing.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to shake things up.
Yeah, he's not.
But his assertive approach, it makes you wonder about the potential consequences.
That's the big question, isn't it? Only time will tell how his actions will shape the future.
And speaking of the future, we can't forget about Stargate
Right.
and the power of AI. It has the potential to change so many things, from healthcare to manufacturing and so much more.
Absolutely.
As you think about everything we've discussed today, think about this. How do we ensure that AI is used for good?
Hmm.
How do we navigate all this new technology while protecting our values and our future?
It's a question that deserves careful consideration.
It really does. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more explorations into fascinating and timely topics. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.